In this tutorial, we are going to cover conditional or if statements. So for example, if x is less than 3, we'll print left, else print straight. And that might be like a switch on a railroad where the train might go left or straight, and there's some condition that tells us which way to go. And similarly, in a program, we're going to have these conditional statements that are going to affect the flow of our program and what code is run. We're going to start up the Jupyter Notebook and go to the lesson number 9. And here is ifstatements.ipymb, which is IPython Notebook. The if and else statements tell the computer what to do based on a true condition, true or false. And this could be used for the temperature of the egg in the incubator program by telling the heaters to turn on if the egg is too cold. So let's look at the different parts of these if statements. If is a certain condition. If an example here is if the days are less than 21, then the chick is still developing in the egg. Alright, so let's go ahead and put in here 22, and it won't print anything because it's greater than 21. But if I put in something like 18, it prints out the message, the chick is still developing. So it only visits this part of the code if this condition is true. It knows what statements to visit by the tab indentation or the spaces here in Python. Alright, let's go to else. Else will execute the code if the if statements, if none of the if statements or else if statements are executed. And so here we have two conditions. If days is greater than 21, then we're going to print this line. Else, we're going to print the line below it. Enter the number of days. Let's go ahead and do 25. And this says the chick should have hatched out of the egg. Let's do it again and put in something like 15. And it says the chick is still developing. So based on the number of days, we're going to get something different that is printed out. Let's make our own if statement. And you can do anything you would like here. I'm going to say that I'm going to have the answer is 20, and then I'm going to do a guess for the user. Okay, and guess a number, and I'll say if my guess is less than answer, and then I'll print too low, else print too high. Okay, assuming that the user is never really going to get it correct. I'll add another condition for that later. Alright, so this is 18, and that says it's too low. And if I run it again, and say 25, then it says too high. Alright, let's go with the elif, or else if. Now when the first one is false, it'll go down to the next one, which is elif, and it'll check that condition. So it's like an if statement that's inside here where we have 3 ways that we could go on the code, and if neither the top 2 are true, then it's going to execute the bottom one. Alright, I'll just run through some of these. 25, 19. Okay, we have a new message. The chick should hatch soon. And then if it's 15, we're going to go back to the chick is still developing. You can also have an if statement inside another if statement. That's a nested if statement. And you could also use comparative statements. There's some Python basic knowledge. There's another Jupyter Notebook here. If you go down here to Python, basic Python knowledge, Again, internet is going to be your best resource, but you can do comparative things like not equal to, less than, greater than, equal to, less than or equal to, and so on. And we can also do and, or, and not as logical conditions to be able to combine two conditions together. Maybe both of them have to be true, and so we'll say, the answer has to be less than 20 and the number of guesses has to be less than 10 for you to say too low. Alright, let's go on to the activity. We want to use the if and else if statements to create a calculator using basic operators. Have the user input two values to be operated on and have an option to use addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division for these two numbers. Let me correct this one right here. Alright, make sure you print the finished answer. Alright, so here are two inputs, and then we can say what. Okay, so we could say type, operation type, and then we can give some input, operation type, and then we can say addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. Alright, those will be our options. And then if option equals addition, then we're going to say that z equals x plus y. Alright, and then we want another if statement here, and this is going to be else if option equals, and then this is going to be subtraction, and I'll just z equals x minus y, and just one more else if here, and this is going to be multiplication, and z equals x times y, and I'll just put an else in case they didn't put anything else. Actually, I should probably do else if. Okay, equals division, z equals x divided by y, and else print incorrect option. Alright, and then we will print we'll print z, and we'll make z equals none here. Alright, let's go ahead and test this. Enter the first value, 3.3, 4.3, and we'll do addition, and there's our 7.6. We've just added them together. Alright, and then we'll do division, and let's do it one more time, and then we'll do E. Okay, so that's an incorrect option, and that'll be none. Alright, so based on what the user input, it's going to visit one of these and do different types of math operations. Now we want to use if statements in a while loop. Create code that turns on the LED when the temperature goes above 30 degrees Celsius and disconnects the kit and turns off the LED when the temperature goes above 35 degrees Celsius. We want to output the temperature every time the program loops. Set the heater power with user input. Alright, so let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to first of all say that the heater is going to be equal to 0. And then in this while loop, okay, we have a couple different conditions that we've got to check for. And then we also want time in here. Or we could do, let's do this. Let's go ahead and just have it pause. We don't need the time function if we just have it pause with user input. Okay, and so we'll do Q1 equals, and this is going to be input, and we want to make this into a float or an integer. Alright, new heater power. Alright, I'll end this, and then we'll put into the lab we'll put in the new Q1 value. Okay, Q1, and let's just call this Q so we don't mistake it for something else. Alright, I'll do Q, and then we'll put this value in. Now we have some conditions we have to check. Alright, so while the temperature is less than 35, it's going to continue to operate this, and when it's done, then it's going to close out the lab. Alright, so let's just read over this one more time. Use if statements in a while loop, create code that turns on the LED when the temperature goes above 30 degrees. Alright, so let's do if temperature is greater than 30 degrees, we'll do lab.led, and we'll turn that on to 100%, and else lab.led, we'll turn that off. Alright, so we have a condition here that's going to check the temperature, and then it's going to set it on or off based on the current temperature. Let's get the current temperature. Okay, the temperature is going to be lab.t1, and if lab.t1 is greater than 30, alright, and then we will also print lab.t1 here. Okay, so here we have our program, and it's going to ask us for a new heater power, and then every time it'll run through this and print out the new temperature. Let's just try it. Oh, I forgot a colon at the end of this. Let's try that again. Okay, it's going to connect, and let me bring up this this device right here just so we can look at the LED while it's running. And I'll try to make this as big as possible so we can see this. Alright, new heater power, we're going to turn that on to 100%. And you can see that the LED is not on right there. Alright, so we're just going to let it heat up for a little longer. New heater power, I can just put in another 100% there. Alright, so it's checking every time I put in a new heater power, and I can just leave that at 100. Okay, so it's heating up. Now it's only going to turn this on when I am putting in new heater values. We may want to do something like you'll only ask the user to input a value, but let it continuously show the temperature. That's going to be just a little bit more advanced. Okay, so we're just going to keep doing 100%. It's not really changing anything. We could change it to different heater powers, but okay, there it went. The LED turned on. It says it's hot. You can see this LED on right here, and it disconnected. It said it was greater than 35 at that point, and the lab shut down. Okay, let's do this final one. We want to make a guessing game that makes a random LED %, and the user has to type inputs to guess it. Alright, so make the program say higher or lower depending on the guess. While the guess is correct, flash the LED for a few seconds and disconnect. We use while loops, for loops, if and else statements, input, print, any combination of what we've already learned in the prior programs to create this. But we need this import random. We'll need this for the random LED %, and then it's going to hide this value from the user. It's going to go anywhere between 1 and 100. It doesn't include this last number right there. So let's go ahead and import this, and let's go ahead and do a while loop. Alright, we'll have a user guess. Alright, we have the random LED value, And then the guess value, I'm just going to start with none on that. Okay, so while and random LED is not equal to guess, then we're going to continue this loop. Okay, and then at the very end, we're going to flash the LED a few times for I in range, and let's do 20, and then we're going to turn on the LED. Alright, and then we will turn off the LED. And then we're going to have a little bit of a time sleep here. I'll do 0.1 for each one to separate them. So we get a blinking LED at the very end. Okay, so this is our reward for guessing correct. It's going to flash the LED for, let's see, 0.2 seconds each time for 20 seconds, or sorry, 20 cycles through this, and just flash the LED when we get it correct. Okay, so this is our while loop here. We need to be able to put something in here to get a new guess. Okay, guess is going to be integer. Okay, new guess 1 to 100. Alright, and that's going to be the new guess. And let's see, we need to also be able to display this random LED on the temperature control lab. So let's go ahead and just connect. Our lab is going to be tclab.tclab, and then we want to do lab.led, and we're going to put in that random LED. So that's going to be the clue. You can look at the intensity of the light, and that will tell you about the right level that you should be guessing. Okay, our guess is going to be none, so that when we enter this, it's going to start the loop. And then we need an if statement here. So if guess is less than random LED, we're going to print too low. And I'll copy this just with the elif. Guess is greater than random LED. We'll print too high. And then we can do else. Alright, and this is going to be print we can do correct. Now another way to do this, instead of the condition that you saw up above, is we can just break out of the loop. Okay, so we can just say while, and then we don't have to have that initial guess value to start our loop. So this is just a little bit cleaner. It will break out of the loop and then continue on with the rest of the code once we are done. And the very final thing we need to do is do lab.close, and then we will close the connection to the lab and be done. Alright, so let's go ahead and start this. It's going to put in a random LED value here. Alright, so you can see the intensity there. I'm guessing that's probably somewhere around 50. It says it's too high. I'll do 40. Too low, 45 is too high, 43. That is too high, 42. Too high, 41. Okay, so that is correct, and you can see the LED blinking for a few times right there. Let's just do this one more time. Alright, looking at that, it looks like it's a little bit lower on the intensity. That says too high. I'll guess 20. Okay, so I'm able to see it about within 10% just on the LED. Too low, and then we'll do 24, and then you can see it blinking right there. Alright, so there is our simple program that combines a lot of the things that we've learned up to this point. It has this random number that we input right here, and then we import our TC lab and time. We connect to the TC lab, we put in our random LED value, and then this is our number guessing game with some if statements and a break at the end if it's correct. And then we used a for loop to blink a certain number of times and then closed the lab. So let's go back to our course project and just see if there are some things that we can add to our course project based on what we've learned about conditional statements. Okay, so here we have setting the heater level. Now I think we've got something that if it's too low, we're going to increase the heater, and if it's too high, we'll decrease the heater. Alright, so let's go ahead and just, once we read in the temperature, alright, we say that if T1 is less than, alright, our target temperature, our temperature set point, then we're going to say that Q equals Q plus 1. Alright, and then if it's too low, we'll say that too high now, we'll say that Q equals, let's do 20%. Okay, so I'm just kind of putting in some values here. There's nothing that's going to be correct here per se, but you can, alright, go ahead and just add the comments here. It's too low, you're going to increase the heater. If it's too high, we're going to decrease the heater. Alright, and then we want to set the heater level. Okay, and then we're going to print the LED value, which is the Q value that we had that we're setting the heater to. Alright, and this is just going to go for 20 seconds, but let's go for just a little bit longer here and see how our program is working. I'll go for 50 seconds. And it'll start running. Target temperature is 37. Okay, I'll just put down 25. Alright, we have an error here. Q is not defined. So we need to give Q an initial value at the very beginning. Q equals 0. I'll just start with that. Okay, this is going to be our initial heater value. Alright, and it looks like we're still connected. If that ever happens, you can just go to kernel and restart the kernel, and then it'll disconnect from the TC lab for you. Alright, target temperature, I'll say 25. And we might want to put on the heater values here as well. You know, let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to restart the kernel one more time. And let's do something just a little bit different here. If it's too low, we'll, let's see, if it's too high, we'll set it to 0. And if it's too low, we'll set it to 100. We'll just make this very easy here. Alright, and then we want to display it with the LED. And let's go ahead and just add that to our heater value here. Alright, and then we can print current temperature and T. I'll make this just a little bit shorter. And then we'll have Q. And this will be 1. And then we're going to do, let's see, let's go ahead and do 7.5. 0.2 as a float, and then we'll put in our Q value right here. Alright, so here is our Q value and our temperature. We're going to display those when we do the read temperature. Alright, we'll have 25. So we can see our temperature and our heater value. And let's see if this will go up to 0. Okay, there we go. We have a basic temperature controller. If it's too low, it sets it to 100, and if it's too high, it sets it to 0. All right, for the next lesson, we covered conditionals this time, and for the next lesson, we're going to be talking about lists and tuples. Okay, so how to create lists of values or tuples, these multiples of values, and then we'll go on to dictionaries, and then finally the very last one is going to be displaying a trend or a plot.